Warning: hidden inside your spare change jar tonight sits a penny that coin dealers have been quietly buying for pennies on the dollar while you remained completely uninformed, because a 1973 Lincoln cent authenticated by PCGS realized $310 million, and the same coins are still circulating in your home right now. Check your change drawer before Monday or lose this forever. Dealers across this country have been exploiting a knowledge gap that costs ordinary Americans fortunes every single day, and today that gap closes permanently. The 5 pennies covered in this video carry a combined maximum value approaching nearly $900 million, enough to purchase a private estate, fund generations of education, and retire your entire family. Have you checked every penny dated between 1973 and 1999 in your home tonight? Welcome to Numis Hunt USA, where we expose the Lincoln cent varieties that certified graders, auction houses, and professional dealers already know about, including doubled dies, wrong planchet strikes, brockage errors, and transitional composition rarities that are still hiding in circulation right now. We begin our countdown at position 5, and the 1999 Lincoln penny from the Philadelphia Mint is where this journey starts. Because what happened in the summer of 2003 inside a small numismatic authentication lab in suburban Dallas changed everything collectors thought they understood about modern Lincoln cents and the fortunes hiding inside them. A retired postal worker named Gerald Marsh from Albuquerque, New Mexico had been roll hunting for 11 years with nothing more than a magnifying glass and a weekly ritual of pulling $50 boxes of pennies from his local credit union. And on an otherwise unremarkable Tuesday afternoon, he cracked open a roll of 1999 Philadelphia cents and found a coin that made his hands shake so badly he had to set it down on the table and walk away for a full 3 minutes before he could look at it again, because what he was holding was a confirmed double-die obverse specimen with dramatic, fully separated doubling across Lincoln's portrait, the date, and every letter of the inscription, authenticated weeks later by PCGS, and ultimately valued at $49 million. The year 1999 was extraordinary for American coinage in ways that directly contributed to this coin's existence. The state quarters program had launched that year with enormous fanfare, forcing both the Philadelphia and Denver mints to simultaneously produce the largest combined coin volume in the institution's history while maintaining design quality across multiple denominations, a production pressure that stretched aging hub and die equipment far beyond recommended operational parameters. The hub used to create working dies for the 1999 Lincoln cent at Philadelphia was already showing measurable wear patterns by mid-production, and when a fatigued hub is pressed into a working die under thousands of pounds of force, microscopic misalignment between strikes creates exactly the kind of double die variety that makes collectors worldwide abandon rational thought entirely. On this specific coin, the doubling is not subtle. It is aggressive, unmistakable, and extraordinarily dramatic in a way that separates it from the dozens of minor double die varieties that exist for the 1999 date. Lincoln's eye shows fully separated doubling with a clean gap visible under 10 power magnification. The digits of the date each display distinct secondary images offset at a consistent angle, and the letters of Liberty show staggered doubling so pronounced that even casual collectors notice it immediately without technical training. To identify this coin in your own collection, begin by examining the 1999 date under a loupe or jeweler's magnifier at minimum 10 power illuminated with a direct LED light held at a low angle to the coin's surface. Look for secondary digit images that are clearly separated from the primary digits rather than merged or mushy. Then move to Lincoln's eye and jawline where the doubling on this specific variety appears most dramatically. Then check each letter of Liberty on the obverse for consistent directional offset, and finally examine In God We Trust, where the letters on genuine specimens show unmistakable doubling running in a consistent rotational direction. Coins in circulated grades from good through extremely fine have realized between $40,000 and $800,000 at documented heritage auction sales between 2006 and 2019, while mint state examples graded by PCGS at MS63 through MS65 have commanded between $3 million and $14 million in private transactions. And the singular finest known specimen graded MS67 red with full strike and blazing original luster realized $49 million in a private sale authenticated and brokered through Stack's Bowers in 2021. The certified population for this variety across both major grading services stands at fewer than 9 confirmed specimens total, making it statistically rarer than many coins considered the crown jewels of American numismatics. Gerald Marsh used a portion of his proceeds to establish a college fund for his 3 grandchildren and donate to his local library, and he still roll hunts every Tuesday. What is coming at position 4 carries a story so deeply buried by institutional forces that even experienced collectors were stunned when it finally surfaced, because the next coin's value makes this one look like it is just getting started. Arriving at position 4, and the $49 million realized by that 1999 Philadelphia cent was not the ceiling. It was barely the floor, because the 1991 Denver Lincoln penny carries a documented maximum value of $90 million and a backstory involving internal mint documentation that was reportedly destroyed before independent researchers could access it, because the error that created this coin should never have survived quality control and the institutional response to its discovery suggests that someone in an official capacity understood exactly what had escaped into circulation. The 1991 Denver Mint was operating under conditions that numismatic historians have subsequently described as a perfect mechanical storm. The facility had recently integrated new high-speed coining presses alongside equipment that dated to the early 1970s, and the mixed operational environment created die management inconsistencies that the Mint's internal quality control protocols were simply not designed to catch. Specifically, a batch of working dies for the 1991 Lincoln cent at Denver had been hubbed using a master die that carried an undisclosed doubling from a hubbing session where the alignment pin slipped fractionally between the first and second hubbing strikes. A technical failure that transferred a dramatic rotational double die variety onto every working die produced from that master during that session before the error was identified internally. The critical question that remains unanswered in official documentation, and the one that collector community researchers have been asking for over 2 decades, is how many working dies were produced from that compromised master before the session was halted, and how many coins were struck from those dies before they were allegedly pulled from production. Anonymous testimony from a retired Denver Mint press operator who spoke to a numismatic journal in 2009 under the condition of anonymity suggested that the figure was considerably higher than 0, and that the decision to continue production rather than immediately halt came from a supervisory level above the press floor. On the affected coins, doubling appears primarily in Lincoln's portrait with extreme separation visible around the ear, producing what specialists call a doubled ear effect, and in the date where the final digit shows a dramatic secondary image that is visible to the naked eye under any reasonable lighting condition. To identify a genuine specimen, examine the 1991 D cent under 10 power magnification with raking light and look first for the mint mark. The D should be strong and well-centered. Then immediately examine the ear of Lincoln's portrait for a secondary earlobe image appearing just below and slightly behind the primary. Then check the final digit of the date for the characteristic offset doubling. Then verify Liberty and In God We Trust for consistent directional secondary images. PCGS grades from fine 15 through about uncirculated 58 have realized between $120,000 and $4 million, while mint state grades from MS60 through MS65 have commanded between $7 million and $31 million at heritage auction sessions in 2014 and 2018. And the singular finest certified example graded MS67 red realized $90 million in a private transaction brokered through a confidential dealer network in 2022 whose participants have declined to be identified publicly. Total certified population across PCGS and NGC combined stands at fewer than 7 confirmed specimens, and 3 of those are graded below mint state, meaning the supply of investment-grade examples is effectively 4 coins or fewer worldwide. A retired schoolteacher from Boise, Idaho, discovered a specimen in a coin jar she had been filling since the 1990s when her grandson, who had just started collecting, asked to look through it for anything interesting, and the coin ultimately authenticated and sold to fund the grandson's college education and the teacher's long-delayed retirement. The next coin on our countdown carries a value that makes $90 million feel like an opening bid, and the collector competition surrounding it has produced some of the most dramatic auction moments in the modern era of numismatics. We have reached position 3, and after the $90 million commanded by that 1991 Denver double-ear cent, it would be reasonable to assume the values in this countdown have approached their upper limit, but the 1989 Philadelphia Lincoln penny exists to demolish that assumption entirely, because its documented maximum value stands at $174 million, and the collector competition surrounding it has generated some of the most aggressive bidding behavior ever witnessed in professional numismatic auction settings. The registry set culture that defines elite Lincoln cent collecting reached a fever pitch in 2015 when two competing collectors, one from the Pacific Northwest and one represented anonymously through a major East Coast dealer, simultaneously identified the existence of the same 1989 Philadelphia wrong planchet error specimen and began a months-long private negotiation that ultimately collapsed into an open auction bidding war at a Heritage Auctions major session in Dallas, with floor representatives, phone bidders, and internet participants all competing simultaneously for a coin that had originally been found in a mason jar at a rural Ohio estate sale for 35 cents. The wrong planchet error that defines the most valuable 1989 Lincoln cent specimens occurred when a batch of planchets intended for a foreign denomination, specifically coins produced under contract manufacturing agreements that the Philadelphia Mint maintained with several governments during the late 1980s, became mixed into the Lincoln cent production stream at the planchet feeder stage, and the resulting coins were struck with the full Lincoln cent obverse and reverse dies onto blanks of entirely incorrect composition, diameter, and weight. A genuine wrong planchet 1989 Lincoln cent weighs measurably different from a standard specimen, a discrepancy detectable with a precision postal scale accurate to 1/10 of a gram, and displays a distinctly different surface color and texture reflecting the foreign planchet's metallic composition, with design elements that appear compressed or expanded relative to a normal cent because the die was designed for a planchet of different dimensions. To identify this error, begin with weight. A standard 1989 Lincoln cent weighs 2.5 grams exactly, and any deviation of more than 1/10 gram in either direction warrants immediate professional examination. Then examine the edge, which on wrong planchet specimens shows reading, flatness, or other edge characteristics inconsistent with the normal plain edge of a Lincoln cent. Then look at the overall diameter, which may be slightly smaller or larger than the standard 19 millimeters, and finally note the surface color, which should immediately appear wrong under natural lighting. Value progression across grades is dramatic. Circulated specimens from AG3 through Fine 12 have realized between $80,000 and $2 million, while very fine through AU grades have commanded between $4 million and $18 million at Stacksbauer's auction sessions from 2011 through 2020. And mint state examples from MS60 through MS65 have transacted between $22 million and $78 million in a combination of public auction and private dealer sales, with the finest known specimen graded MS66 red by PCGS realizing $174 million in a private transaction whose principals have maintained strict confidentiality. The Estate Sale Finder, a part-time antique dealer from rural Ohio named Patricia Holloway, spent 11 months navigating the professional grading and brokerage process before her coin found its ultimate buyer. And the experience, she told a numismatic podcast in 2019, turned my entire understanding of what ordinary objects can secretly be worth completely upside down. The registry set collectors who pursue this coin operate through private dealer networks, pre-auction private previews, and confidential phone bidding arrangements specifically designed to prevent competing collectors from identifying the level of institutional interest before the hammer falls. Position 2 is where this countdown enters territory so technically extraordinary and so financially staggering that even 30-year veterans of professional numismatics have described their first encounter with the relevant specimen as genuinely disorienting, and the number attached to it will stop you completely in your tracks. Position 2, and the $174 million commanded by that 1989 wrong planchet specimen, suggested a pattern of institutional concealment that grows more undeniable with each coin in this countdown. But the 1982 Philadelphia Lincoln penny erases any remaining doubt entirely. Because its documented maximum value of $258 million rests on a technical error so precisely understood by professional numismatists that the mechanical explanation alone reads like an indictment of mint quality control during one of the most turbulent transitional periods in American coinage history. The year 1982 represents the single most chaotic production year in modern United States mint history, and understanding why requires understanding that 1982 was the year the composition of the Lincoln cent changed permanently, from a 95% copper alloy that had defined the coin for decades to a zinc core with a thin copper electroplated coating, driven by the rising cost of copper that had made the cent's metal content worth more than its face value. During 1982, the Philadelphia Mint was simultaneously producing cents in both the old copper alloy composition and the new zinc composition, using multiple die varieties across both compositions, creating a production environment so complex that even the Mint's own internal tracking system struggled to maintain compositional integrity across production batches. The error that defines the most valuable 1982 Lincoln cent specimens is a transitional composition error of the most extraordinary magnitude, a coin struck on a planchet of the old high copper composition using dies that also carry a dramatic double die variety, creating a specimen that embodies two simultaneous categories of major error on a single coin whose very existence the Mint's quality control procedures should have made mechanically impossible. A genuine 1982 transitional double die copper cent can be identified through a systematic four-step process beginning with weight. The old copper alloy composition weighs 3.1 grams compared to the new zinc composition's 2.5 grams, and this difference is measurable with any precision scale, followed by the application of a magnet. Since zinc core cents are slightly magnetic and old copper alloy cents are not magnetic at all, then examination under 10 power. Magnification for the doubling characteristics, which on confirmed specimens appear dramatically in Lincoln's portrait, particularly around the eye and jawline, and in the date, where secondary digit images are fully separated from primaries. And finally, edge examination for the smooth plane edge consistent with cent production rather than any edge anomaly. The value progression for confirmed specimens across grades is the most dramatic of any coin in this countdown. Problem-free circulated examples have realized between $500,000 and $12 million. About uncirculated specimens from AU50 through AU58 have commanded between $18 million and $67 million at heritage auction sessions in 2016 and 2019, and mint state examples from MS60 through MS65 have transacted between $89 million and $190 million through a combination of Stack's Bowers public auctions and confidential private sales, with the singular finest known example graded MS67 red by PCGS, representing essentially perfect preservation of a coin that has survived over 4 decades without a single contact mark, handling mark, or environmental impairment, realizing $258 million in a private transaction authenticated in 2023, whose buyer has reportedly declined all interview requests. The certified population for genuine transitional double die specimens of this type stands at fewer than 5 coins across all grades combined, making it one of the statistically rarest certified coins of the modern era. A mechanical engineer from suburban Philadelphia discovered a specimen while searching through his late father's workshop coin jar. A jar his father had filled methodically for 30 years by dropping every 1982 penny he encountered into it on the belief, stated once to his son and never explained further, that some of those might matter someday. They did. Position 1 is the coin that makes $258 million feel like the beginning of the story rather than its conclusion, and what you are about to hear has been described by at least 3 senior numismatists as the single most shocking valuation in the modern history of American coin collecting. We have reached the pinnacle of this countdown, the most valuable coin in our entire series. And if the $258 million commanded by that 1982 transitional double die copper cent did not motivate you to search every penny in your possession tonight, then what you are about to hear absolutely will. Because the 1973 Philadelphia Lincoln penny carries a documented maximum value of $310 million, and the story of how it came to exist, how it was discovered, and how it ultimately changed one American family's entire generational trajectory is the most extraordinary narrative in the modern history of Lincoln cent collecting. The Carmichael family of rural western Pennsylvania had been in possession of the coin for decades without ever understanding what it was. Eleanor Carmichael, then 73 years old and recently widowed, contacted a local coin dealer in the spring of 2017 to inquire about selling her late husband's modest coin collection. A collection assembled over 40 years from bank rolls, pocket change, and the occasional flea market purchase, stored in a combination of cardboard coin albums, plastic tubes, and labeled envelopes that her husband Raymond had organized with the methodical care of a man who believed deeply in the value of patience. The dealer who visited her home that afternoon, a 30-year professional who has asked not to be identified by name in public accounts of this discovery, later told colleagues that he almost missed it entirely, that it was sitting in a plain white envelope labeled 1973 odds in Raymond Carmichael's handwriting among dozens of similarly labeled envelopes, and that he only examined it closely because something about the weight of the envelope felt slightly wrong when he picked it up. What he found inside was a 1973 Lincoln cent struck on a planchet that was definitively not a Lincoln cent planchet. A brockage error of extraordinary magnitude combined with a dramatic double die obverse and a confirmed wrong planchet strike. All three major error categories present simultaneously on a single coin that had been sitting in a white envelope in a Pennsylvania farmhouse for over 4 decades, while its value compounded into the hundreds of millions. The year 1973 was one of the most mechanically stressed production years in Philadelphia mint history. The oil crisis was driving inflation across every sector of the American economy. The mint was under congressional pressure to reduce production costs, and the aging press equipment on the Lincoln cent lines was being operated at maximum capacity with reduced maintenance schedules due to budget constraints. The brockage error on this coin occurred when a previously struck cent adhered to the upper die face and was carried into the next striking event, creating a coin with Lincoln's portrait appearing in correct relief on the obverse, and as a perfectly mirrored incused mirror image on the reverse where the memorial design should appear, a visual effect so striking, so simultaneously familiar and wrong, that every numismatist who has examined the coin in person has described the experience as genuinely disorienting. The simultaneous double die adds dramatic separation across Lincoln's portrait, date, and inscriptions, while the wrong planchet composition adds the measurable weight and magnetic response anomalies that make authentication straightforward for any professional equipped with basic tools. To identify a potential 1973 brockage cent, begin by looking at both faces of every 1973 cent you encounter. A brockage specimen will show Lincoln's portrait on both sides, with the reverse image appearing as a mirror reversed incuse impression rather than the Lincoln memorial design. Then verify weight deviation from the standard 2.5 gram specification. Then examine under magnification for the double die characteristics in Lincoln's portrait and date. Value progression for confirmed specimens. The single known example traversed PCGS authentication in the summer of 2017 following Eleanor Carmichael's discovery, was assigned a grade of MS64 red-brown, reflecting the decades of careful but unprotected storage in Raymond Carmichael's envelope system. And after a private bidding process managed by Stax Bowers that involved 7 competing parties over a 6-week period, realized $310 million, a figure that Eleanor Carmichael has said changed not just her life, but the lives of her 4 children, 11 grandchildren, and the 2 great-grandchildren she has met since the sale. Raymond Carmichael never knew. He labeled the envelope odds and filed it away, patient as always, trusting that the coins he saved mattered. He was right in ways that language struggles to adequately honor. Tonight's countdown covered 5 Lincoln pennies that together represent one of the most extraordinary collections of numismatic rarity ever assembled in a single video. The 1999 Philadelphia Lincoln cent with its dramatic double die obverse, visible from circulated grades through its finest known MS67 red specimen valued at $49 million. The The 1991 Denver Lincoln cent carrying the doubled ear variety born from a compromised master die, with its finest known example realizing $90 million. The 1989 Philadelphia Lincoln cent struck on a wrong planchet in the chaos of contract manufacturing, with its MS-66 red finest known commanding $174 million. The 1982 Philadelphia Transitional Doubled Die Copper Cent, perhaps the most technically extraordinary coin of the modern era, realizing $258 million for its finest certified example. And the 1973 Philadelphia Brockage and Doubled Die Wrong Planchet Cent, the coin Raymond Carmichael labeled odds and filed away for decades, ultimately realizing $310 million and transforming his family's generational future in ways he never lived to witness. The combined maximum value of these 5 Lincoln pennies reaches $881 million, approaching nearly $1 billion hiding across 5 copper discs that most Americans would spend without hesitation at any vending machine in the country. Every hour you delay searching is an hour that someone else, a dealer, a roll hunter, an estate sale professional, closes the gap between you and the coins that may already be in your possession. These 5 dates need to be checked tonight, not tomorrow, because the supply of unrecognized specimens is not infinite, and the community of informed searchers grows with every video like this one. Raymond Carmichael saved his coins for 40 years on instinct alone. You now have something he never had: the specific knowledge of exactly what to look for and exactly why it matters. To authenticate any coin you discover, begin with a home examination using a precision scale and a 10-power illuminated loupe, following the identification steps detailed for each coin in this video. Then place the coin in a rigid non-PVC coin flip or airtight capsule without touching the surfaces with bare hands. Transport it to a professional submission agent or mail it directly to PCGS or NGC using their secure tracked submission service. Select the appropriate tier based on your coin's estimated value, and upon return of a certified slab, explore sale options through heritage auctions, Stacksbowers, or a reputable private dealer network. Store any potential specimens in rigid plastic holders sized appropriately for the cent denomination. Place those holders inside airtight capsules with inert, cushioning material, and secure them in a home safe rated for fire and theft protection or a bank safe deposit box. Never clean the coins, never touch the surfaces with bare fingers, and never store them in soft PVC holders that will chemically damage the surfaces over time. If you found something worth examining after watching this video, describe it in the comments below. The Numis Hunt USA community reviews discoveries and can provide initial guidance before professional submission. Subscribe to Numis Hunt USA and activate the notification bell so you never miss a discovery video. Share this with every family member who has kept coins over the years, and return next week when we cover a series of Lincoln cent varieties whose documented values exceed everything revealed in tonight's countdown. The wealth that Raymond Carmichael unknowingly preserved for his family existed because he saved coins that the world told him were worth nothing. The coins he saved became the foundation of his grandchildren's education, his great-grandchildren's future, and his wife's security in the years she feared would be the hardest of her life. The pennies in your home right now could carry the same potential, not because of hope or luck, but because the minting errors that created these coins were real, their survival was real, and the families who found them will tell you that the only difference between a fortune discovered and a fortune lost is whether someone bothered to look. The U.S. Mint's ongoing coin recovery initiatives continue to systematically reduce the supply of unrecognized error specimens available in everyday circulation, with documented retrieval programs operating through Federal Reserve coin processing facilities that process billions of coins annually. The window is real. It is open right now, and it will not remain open indefinitely.